Like Andre said, my name is Chef Jazz. I'm also the author of More Than a Cannabis Cookbook. We are, this is my first cookbook. It's been over 2 years to create this, and it has broken down into 7 parts, and we really talk about cooking with cannabis for health and happiness. So before I go into the presentation, I always like to know who is in the room with me. So by a show of hands, I'd just love to know who already cooks with cannabis. Beautiful. All right, so we have some newbies in the room who just want to learn how to cook with cannabis by a show of hands. All right, perfect. And so myself, I actually cook with cannabis for health and happiness. I always start my presentations by saying I would not be here if it definitely wasn't for the alignment around cannabinoids and food. And the reason I say that is because after I graduated from culinary school in 2006, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. I had dropped down to 84 pounds throughout the process. I was put on 5 medications, some really heavy ones too, like including steroids. I was supposed to take shots. I was 23 years old, so I really thought that I was too young to live this sedative type of lifestyle. After all of this trial and error, 13 years later, I'm no longer on any of those medications, and it's really around the alignment around cannabinoids and food, hence why we created a cookbook as well. So today, I just want to drop a little bit of nuggets. We are definitely going to have Q&A towards the end. So if you have any questions, we'll definitely answer those in a little bit. Like I said, my name is Chef Jazz. We're based out of Washington, D.C., Green Panther Chef, full-service cannabis catering company. And like I said, through this whole entire process of me being diagnosed with Crohn's disease and really trying to figure out what worked for me and working with a lot of doctors, we found out that a lot of people start to cook with cannabis in 5 different buckets. And we break this down in the book. So Crohn's disease, gastrointestinal issues, that's a big one. Insomnia, migraines, pain, depression, all of that good type of stuff. And so the reason why you have to know how to basically get the most out of your cannabis comes down to 5 questions. What's your goal? Number 1, when I know I wanted to start cooking with cannabis, that's a second, let's move over. So yes, Crohn's survivor, this is actually me, right before I graduated from culinary school. These are all of my friends. And it was so cool because they knew something wasn't right with me, but I just wanted to save face. I kind of go into my story just a little bit. Dropped down to 84 pounds. I knew it was a better way of life. We can go to the next slide here. And like I said, these are the common issues that we really found out that really break down as to why people start cooking with cannabis, either around health and happiness, around business. But myself, I am extremely intentional about when I start touching the plant, and it has to have some type of usefulness in order for me to consume it. So it kind of breaks down into these 5 areas, and then we kind of break it down a lot more with recipe alignment in the book. Next slide. All right, so this is where we left off. When you start cooking, and we talk about this quite a bit, what is the goal? When I was 84 pounds, I was bed rest. I really just wanted to be upright. I wanted to be a 23-year-old, and I just wanted to be okay, And so I just wanted to be happy, and I wanted to be out of pain. That really came down to the strain alignment, the cultivar alignment. What terpenes are inside of the cultivar. A lot of trial and error with us working through our cannabis and food journal, finding out what terpenes work for me. So we know it's a lot of terpenes inside of cannabis, but really beta-carophylline is the claim to fame, especially when it comes to Crohn's disease. The reason being is because it works with inside of my gut, and then it activates. It's extremely anti-inflammatory as well. So I always look for cultivars that have a really high beta-carophylline content. And the reason why I found that out was through trial and error and then creating our cannabis and food journal. That goes down to what's the terpene type. I love beta-carophylline, like I said, but then also limonene. If you have like anxiety or depression, a little pick-me-up, you have to know what terpenes actually work for you. It isn't all about just THC and CBD and how high you can get. The method of delivery. This is extremely important. You'll see us in this demo here, but we really touch on how to consume cannabis. We do talk about inhaling and everything like that, but if we are going to take a salad dressing and then actually consume a brownie, that bioavailability, when it breaks that blood and brain barrier, is going to be totally different. The reason being is because how it metabolizes through the body. So just being extremely mindful around that. And then within that journal, how are you feeling 15 minutes later, 30 minutes later? Because what works for me may not work for you. I know I can go all the way up to 50 milligrams consuming, of THC, but that may not work for some people. One story I always love to talk about, that I have an elderly client that I work with, that I have an athlete. Most people who do work out, it just goes to their body really quickly. And my elderly lady, she can go up to 200 milligrams and put this guy out. And they think that just because he's big and an athlete, you can consume a lot more. But you really just have to know what works for you. All right, and then just go back to the last point, and then the last one right here is just knowing your dose. I touched on this just a little bit, but you don't have to be high to be healthy. Sometimes we have to go through that process, but each cannabinoid definitely does have its own medicinal benefit. So CBD, I absolutely love using that topically. And then also THC as well. It has those psychoactive benefits, but it also has anti-inflammatory benefits as well. All right, so before we get cooking, I'm just going to kind of go through just a little bit as to why you don't see any flames over here. One, we're not cleared by the fire marshal, one. So we're going to do a little bit of assembly. And then you definitely don't want to burn out your terpenes or your cannabinoids when you start to cook with cannabis, right? So you have already decarboxylated, you found out what beautiful cultivar you are now going to use, and then you start to cook. We've preheated our oven to 350 degrees, and then it doesn't have the same effects. So you really want to reserve. I play within a range, as you can see up here, 220 to 300 degrees. The reason being is because you want to reserve those cannabinoids and those terpenes. And then on the bottom, we just kind of talk just a little bit around where those terpenes or those cannabinoids start to evaporate. All right. So like I said, we are going to take any questions towards the end. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I am going to put the mic down, but we're making very simple, approachable recipes today, right? A lot of these are, featured inside of them, the More Than a Cannabis cookbook. But we're just going to be doing a beautiful salad, a fancy salad, or a salad niçoise, and then we're following that up with actually some no-mess chicken wings. So I'm going to try to project myself a little bit, but let's get cooking. All right. So like I said, we typically do, because we're in Florida, we're using our CBD infused extra virgin olive oil. You don't always have to inhale when you're consuming cannabis, but this is also one that's approachable way as well that you can actually start using for cooking with cannabis in a very simple way. And it's not intimidating. Some people don't want to bake, and so I really kind of put them on a salad dressing or something that they can actually feel like, okay, I can do this at home. Even though Duncan Hines makes it really simple, we can pour things out of a bag, some people still get a little bit intimidated when it comes to cooking with cannabis. So this is extremely simple. I love starting with a mason jar. I keep these in my house as well. You can decarboxylate in this. I talk about the mason jar method inside where you can decarboxylate and extract all in the same place. But you have to know your number so you don't bust the glass or anything like that. All right, so just starting off in a regular mason jar, and I keep this inside my refrigerator all the time. Just going to start off and just eyeball it just a little bit. If you want the numbers, of course, More Than a Cannabis cookbook. But we're starting off with our CBD extra virgin olive oil. We have a little bit of our shake seasoning blend. This has salt, pepper, it has decarboxylated cannabis or CBD inside of it as well, and then our proprietary herb spice blend. Absolutely use that in everything. I love using a champagne vinegar inside of this, but because we're in Florida, I thought we can use a little bit of key lime, and it definitely does. It serves its great purpose. The main thing is you just want something acidic, right? So you just want to do 2 parts of olive oil, okay, to 1 part of your citrus. Just as a binder, you always want to add a little bit of mustard as well, and that gives it that nice, like, emulsify, that thickness that we come to like in our dressing. So just about a half a teaspoon inside of there with our shake. Put that lid on. And I either love doing fresh herbs inside of here, or you can use the shake spice blend, but it's absolutely beautiful to use like rosemary or thyme or something like that. Just giving this a good little shake. The main reason is because you want to either bruise those fresh herbs, and then you also want to express out these beautiful flavors from this spice blend. I typically shake for about 10 to 15 minutes. And if you're not going to use all of this, you can throw it right inside of your refrigerator, and it does last for about 2 weeks. That looks good, right? All right. So literally taking our salad, I'm going to use my hands here. And I absolutely love doing like a Niçoise salad. One, because of the textures. You know, you have like the potatoes in there if you want to add those, the tomatoes, and then the green beans. It's just a really great way. You can smell those cannabinoids as well. Smells beautiful. All right, so you just want to toss that up. And when it comes down to dosing, some of y'all may be like, well, how do you know how many cannabinoids are in there? Definitely. So it comes down to 5 questions that you're going to have to ask yourself. We call this the Big 5. We talk about this quite a bit in the book. But knowing your weight of your decarboxylated cannabis is extremely important when you're starting to dose at home. But these 5 questions are basically going to guide you so you can create those repeatable results at home. So we have that beautiful base, and you can smell those cannabinoids and everything because they have been bruised inside of this mason jar. We're going to top this with some green beans. You can definitely toss it if you want, but I just love the freshness and the bite of a fresh green bean. Tomatoes. And if you don't mind, I love to kind of work with my hands a little bit. I am a creative. And I love this because of the egg, the protein, and like I said, you can kind of, each bite is different. That's why I absolutely love the Niçoise. Topping that off with a little bit of olives that we did marinate inside of extra virgin olive oil with CBD and a little bit of that shake seasoning. The importance of this line is more so of just using cannabinoids throughout your day. You don't have to physically sit and inhale all the time. You can actually, you'll see this in the next recipe. You can use this in wings. You can do a salad dressing. You can have popcorn with butter. You can do just totally different things. You don't have to physically sit down and vape and inhale all the time, right? All right, so let's top this off with these olives here. And then, of course, it would be, and then top this off with our beautiful salads. I always love just to top it off with a little bit more dressing on top of our protein. This is completely optional. But literally, how long did that take? It took like 10 minutes for you to make this, and this is something that is really great for your body. It's great for your gut. It has cannabinoids already in it, and it makes health and happiness super simple. So this is number 1, just a super simple salad Niçoise. I wish you guys could definitely try it out, but it's, swear, take my word for it, it's delicious. All right. So let me just clean up just a little bit because the type A meat freak in me needs to get this together. But also, I do want to talk about a little bit of our product line. Everything is infused with full spectrum CBD only. And then also it has 50 milligrams per bottle. So for the next recipe, we are going to be doing a hot wing, right? We just came off a Super Bowl, all of that good type of stuff, and this is actually one of like our best-selling recipes. But it really comes down to not burning off these cannabinoids and the terpenes. So it's starting off with the base of the sauce or the chicken. In the recipe, you can see that what we do is called, you marinate your wings. You're going to put it in smoked paprika, garlic, salt, pepper, and just kind of let that sit, and we're not going to fry it. Throw that inside of the oven, and this is what you're going to get. after you get it out of the oven. You want to now make the sauce. It's kind of like a buffalo wing sauce. And so the main thing here is that you want to add a little bit of butter to a saucepan. And then you want to add half of your favorite hot sauce. Typically like a Frank's or something like that definitely gives you that body. But you want to follow it up with our oven smoke hot sauce. This, like I said, has this beautiful, what type of pasilla pepper based. It has our shake seasoning blend in there as well. Almost there. Perfect. So as you can see, it's just a little bit thicker. You would think this would be really, really hot, but it actually has a great body and it's a great base. And it's great for if you're going to add it with 2 different sauces. So one, just stirring this, you do want to have butter, of course, because of here with the heat, we cannot do this, but it will be like this rich, beautiful, steamy sauce. Once you add a little bit of that Frank's, you're going to also use that oven smoke. This is the time when you definitely want to toss it, those wings, after you've already baked them, inside of your sauce. Just going to do 3 inside of here. Perfect. We'll take a little bit more. This one's some. Like I said, Super Bowl was super fun with this, and typically serve this with like celery. You can do it with your carrots, blue cheese. I love doing a homemade blue cheese, of course. We talk about that, of course, inside of the book. Get this out of the way. Blue cheese to the side. Just do a little bit of carrot sticks. And I would love to put some celery on here as well. I'll just add some green beans because green is good. And then 2. So our salad dressing, and then also using the oven smoke. Like I said, super simple, super approachable, easy ways that you can cook with cannabis. You don't have to spend all day inside of the kitchen whatsoever. We decarboxylated inside of our mason jar. We have our T-checks and all of that good type of stuff. But if you know those 5 questions, like we talk about in that book, you can dose at home and create those repeatable results. So I would love to know if we have any questions in the audience at all. That was a lot of information. No questions? All right, well, I want to say thank you very much for having me. If you want to find any other information, I will be inside the back of the room. And I am signing all copies. All right? So thank you so much, guys. All right. I know, I definitely did want to give you guys just a little bit more information. But I love to do Q&A. I just don't like to talk to people. So, all right, guys. Thank you so much. It's over 300 pages in there as well. And like I said, it is broken down into 7 parts. We talk about insomnia. We talk a lot about like gut health as well. And then we also talk a lot about pain management too. And then the sauces. And then the sauces too. Yes. Oh, decarboxylation. So, thank you. Decarboxylation is activating your cannabis at a certain time and a certain temperature.
Okay.
Absolutely. And so that's why you see that range underneath here. I play within this range.
It could be oven, bake.
You can do oven. Definitely do an oven when you are cooking with cannabis. When you are actually rolling and you're sparking it, you're decarboxylating it on site. So of course, we're using the oven. We do like to keep it around 220 Fahrenheit, going all the way up to 300. And some people are like, oh my God, why are you going so high? But it typically depends on what type of cannabinoids and terpenes that I'm looking to reserve.
So you're familiar with those vapors that you put the actual flower on it?
Yes.
Okay, so somebody told us that that would do the decarbonation. Then you can use that. What do you know about about that? Is it true? How do you know?
You definitely can, but I love to keep the integrity of the product, and so I love the process of actually putting it inside of either the baking tray or the oven, because it's too temperamental when you're dealing with like a vape pen or something like that, because you don't know the whole thing is getting decarboxylated. You know, you want to make sure when you're decarboxylating that everything is broken down into pea sizes as well. So you want to make sure the whole thing is being coated. So it just is too temperamental when you're using
Yeah,
something.
I actually do that myself.
And how do you find it?
Yeah, so I had a buddy, I was just throwing it away.
Yeah.
I was done with it. And then, so I had also kind of more of a plant-based diet.
Yeah.
And then I just take some and I throw it in a shake with high fat plants, so avocados, nuts, coconut, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
These things are beneficial.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on how heavy you go, but it can be a very, it can sit on you.
A rich experience.
Yes.
Absolutely. You're using good fats as well. Very important that you actually use.
I like to fly.
Uh-huh.
So before I go to the airport, you got about 2 hours.
So what do you have, packs? What do you use, packs?
So what do you decarboxylate it in? So
I
you
use
use like an avocado
I forget what
oil?
it's called,
Use
but
the
it's
magical butter.
See, I have my own opinions
Got the
on.
magical butter
dry
thing, and then the couples done.
Uh-huh.
The little green thing.
Yeah, yeah, and so how do you feel about that? Because one thing I did use it, of course, I do have the Levos and I have the magical butters and everything. But then what I did find out was that I could get my dosage is higher when I use a mason jar or if I use something. Because what I realized is that a lot of the cannabis sits on the bottom of the vegetable butter when you're extracting, and you actually have more control. You can turn it, flip it upside down when you're using that mason jar. And so I just found out I didn't have the same product when I did with the magical butter. And then also just making sure that you use a really good fat. Avocado oils. Some people were like, hey, I just decarboxylated vegetable oil, you know, and I'm like, okay, first off, the smoke point is way too high in order for you to decarboxylate in something like a vegetable oil. So you want to make sure you're always using extra virgin olive oils, coconut oils, avocado oils.
Grain alcohol.
Grain alcohol, if I'm doing like a sun up to a new moon type of extraction, is what I typically do with grain alcohol.
RSO.
I stay away from that one. BHO, stuff like that. The reason being is because I am extremely intentional. You know, and so when you're using a lot of these solvents and stuff like that, it can have like a counter effect, right? When you're constantly doing gummies and everything, that's great, but I can't consume that much sugar having Crohn's disease. Hence why I create a cookbook. Hence why I have recipes that you can cook throughout your kitchen, you know, and so you don't have to always use one type of consumption method.
As far as baking, what do you use it for, like cakes or like what it will be the temperature, or what would you use to make it correct?
Yeah. So, like I said, you definitely want to stay below 350. That's safe. Where do you live? Because here. Okay, cool. Yeah. So if you're living in Colorado or something like that, I'll give you a different temperature just because of altitude. But definitely down here, 330 degrees will definitely work. You want to keep that oven just a little bit lower. On a lot of packages, it is going to say 350, but you're going to burn off a lot of those terpenes and stuff. So if you really want an effective and a moist product, 330. Okay? Yes?
You keep mentioning terpenes. Do you select the strain that you're working with based on the terpene profile?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I talked about that quite a bit with myself having Crohn's disease. I'm extremely intentional. So I know when I am going to a dispensary, I want a cultivar that is high in THC. It has around 19%. It's higher in beta-carotene. Then we're following up with limonene as well. And the reason being is because of the Cannabis and Food Journal that I created. So I know exactly what terpenes I'm looking for. Yeah, definitely. All right, any other questions? Thank you so much. I am going to be in the back, and I'm also going to be at the Hilton for the after party, but thank you so much for being